How do you sell your art to a museum? I get this question surprisingly often from visitors at the museum where I work. And the honest answer is it's not that simple. In fact, the question itself is already slightly off. Let's start with something fundamental. The primary place where art is bought and sold is the art market. Galleries, dealers, and auction houses. Museums operate very differently. Their primary role is not to buy art they simply like. By definition, museums collect, preserve, and display works that have artistic, historical, or cultural significance. That means museums don't usually ask, do we like this? They ask, why does this matter? And why does it belong here? Every museum has an acquisition committee, and every museum defines significance differently. For example, a national or regional museum may prioritize works connected to a specific place, community, or historical experience. Even if they had the opportunity to acquire a famous international artist, they may pass in favor of works that better represents their mission. Meanwhile, a museum like MoMA will make very different decisions because it tells a different story about art history. So the first step is not asking, how do I sell to a museum? It's asking, which museum would my work even make sense for? If your goal as an artist is for your work to eventually enter a museum collection, most often that path runs through contemporary art institutions and through the broader art world that surrounds them. And here is the uncomfortable part. Museums rarely discover artists out of nowhere. What they look for is context. Has the work been exhibited, written about, collected? Has the artist's practice been discussed beyond their own studio? One very common and very effective path is working with a gallery. Galleries don't just sell art. They build careers, narratives, and visibility. To get there, you will need a strong, cohesive portfolio, often 30 to 40 works. And you need to be your own advocate. You need to be able to tell your story. Who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how your work connects to larger questions in art and culture. Museums and curators don't rely on the idea that the work speaks for itself. Especially early in your career, you have to speak for it. Competitions, residencies, and awards matter for the same reason. Think about Amy Sherrod. Her career took off after she won the National Portrait Gallery's Outwin Butchever Portrait Competition in 2016 for her painting Miss Everything. That visibility led to major commissions, including Michelle Obama's portrait and eventually to museums acquisitions. That wasn't luck, that was institutional validation built step by step. Now let's talk briefly about art schools, because this comes up all the time. Many young artists worry that art school will ruin their individual style. But here's my honest opinion. If your style can be destroyed by learning, it wasn't a style, it was a limitation. Art school doesn't exist to make all the students paint the same way. It teaches you how to work in many different styles so you can eventually find your own. Just as importantly, art school teaches you how to situate your work and how to talk about it in the language of the art world. And of course, art schools also provide something very practical: networks. Of course, you can build an amazing career without art school. It's just more difficult. Beyond education, there are a few non-negotiables. Build a strong portfolio. Have a professional website or a clearly curated Instagram. Show your work whenever possible. And when you exhibit, invite curators and critics. Don't assume they will find you. So, if there is one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this. Museums don't buy artworks. They collect arguments, histories, and positions, and artworks are part of that conversation. Many artists belong in museums long before museums are ready to take the risk. That delay isn't a judgment on the work, it's a reflection of how slowly institutions move. History reminds us that many artists were understood much later, sometimes long after their lifetime. And I don't want this to discourage you. Institutional recognition is only one measure of value. Enjoy the process of making, learning, and becoming an artist.